Have you ever felt like life is just, happening to you?
Hmm.
Like you're sort of a passenger in your own story, maybe just reacting to whatever comes along.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way.
Well, what if I told you that maybe that feeling isn't just a feeling, that it might actually be a deep misunderstanding of how your reality truly works?
Okay, I'm listening.
What if, in fact, you are not just a participant, but the absolute unquestionable architect of every single thing in your life?
Yeah.
I mean, even down to the smallest detail.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That's a pretty big claim.
it's audacious, right? And
Yeah.
maybe even a little confronting for some. But that's the claim we're really digging into today.
And it's a claim that, if true, holds just immense internal power, doesn't it? It suggests you are the creator of your reality and not just like attracting circumstances randomly.
Exactly.
So yeah, today's deep dive is into this really transformative framework. It's known as the law of assumption.
The law of assumption.
Oh, and we'll unpack its core principles, look at the practical applications. We've sifted through a whole stack of sources, actually. Everything from, insightful real-world discussions in online communities like Reddit.
Oh, interesting. Modern takes on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the foundational texts from really influential thinkers like Neville Goddard and Dr. Joseph Murphy.
Oh, the classics.
The classics, exactly. So our mission here is really to distill these key insights, try to give you a clear, actionable understanding without all the jargon, maybe clear up some confusion.
Yeah, because there can be a lot of that around these topics.
For sure. We want to arm you with knowledge that helps you see your world through, well, a profound and honestly incredibly empowering new lens.
And what a rich array of perspectives we've got to work with, bridging, like you said, that older wisdom with really modern insights.
Definitely.
So we have these lively, nuanced discussions, personal experiences shared on Reddit threads, giving us that contemporary angle.
Mm.
And then the classic foundational stuff from figures like Neville Goddard. I mean, his lectures and books, they've influenced so many people.
Absolutely essential reading for this topic.
And then Dr. Joseph Murphy, too, with his more maybe practical spiritual science, exploring the power of the subconscious mind.
Yeah, Murphy brings a slightly different, very practical angle to it.
So taken together, these diverse sources really seem to highlight this incredible, often overlooked power of our imagination and our deepest inner beliefs, right? How they shape everything we experience.
That's the core idea, exactly. Imagination as the creative force.
So let's start right there with what our sources present as the fundamental, maybe even revolutionary statement at the heart of all this, which is the law of assumption works where your imagination creates reality.
Right.
Now, that isn't just, a catchy phrase or some kind of new age platitude, is it?
No, not at all. It's presented as a really profound assertion. It's saying your inner world fundamentally dictates your outer experience.
So everything I see, everything I live through, it's basically a direct projection of what's going on inside my own head.
That's the claim. And what's really fascinating is how our sources consistently bring up this idea of 3D versus 4D to explain it.
Okay, 3D versus 4D. Break that down for us.
Sure. So the 3D is your current, tangible, physical reality.
Yeah.
Everything you can literally touch, see, hear, your everyday world.
Got it. The world out there.
Exactly. Think of it maybe like the screen of a projector.
Okay.
And the 4D, that's your inner world, your assumptions, your beliefs, your imagination. That's the film reel in the projector.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Yeah. The really revolutionary insight here is that the image on the screen, your 3D reality, is simply a direct projection of the film you're running internally in your 4D.
To change the movie.
You don't try to wipe the screen, right? You change the film reel. You change the inner
Right.
state.
That flips everything on its head, doesn't it? Because normally we think external events cause our feelings or our reality.
Exactly. This perspective fundamentally challenges that conventional understanding of cause and effect. This analysis suggests your inner state, your 4D, is the primary cause, and external circumstances in the 3D, they're just effects. Or, as some sources interestingly call them, old images.
Old images, like echoes of past thoughts.
Pretty much. They're seen as the delayed manifestation of past assumptions that have already played out internally, which is why the law of assumption boldly asserts that circumstances don't matter nearly as much as we think they do.
Okay, hang on. Circumstances don't matter? That sounds challenging. My bank account balance feels like it matters.
Right, and it feels like it matters because we're so conditioned to react to the 3D. But from this perspective, that bank balance is just reflecting what you've already assumed to be true about your finances in the past. It's old news, essentially.
So the power lies in changing the current assumption.
Precisely. The profound implication for you, for the listener, is that if you can truly imagine something, if you can hold it as real in your inner world with conviction, with feeling, then you already have it, at least in potential, in the 4D.
So my imagination, backed by that inner certainty, that's all it takes for it to eventually show up in the 3D.
That's presented as the only prerequisite. Your imagination, impressed upon the subconscious, is the engine for it unfolding in your physical reality.
Wow. Okay. That's a powerful shift in perspective.
Yeah.
Truly makes us the primary actors, not just reactors.
Right.
Now, this whole idea of imagination creating reality, it might sound a bit familiar to some people, maybe echoing things they've heard about the law of attraction.
Yes, definitely overlaps in the popular consciousness.
But our sources seem to suggest there are some really key distinctions, things that often get misunderstood, and understanding these differences is apparently vital if you actually want to apply these principles effectively.
That's a really critical point, and yeah, it's where a lot of confusion can definitely arise. While both laws deal with manifesting desires, bringing things into your life, their foundational premises are actually quite different.
How so?
Well, with the law of attraction, or Lo as it's often called, the common teaching often positions an external universe as this separate power, right? Something you ask or wish for desires from.
Right, like sending out a request to the cosmos.
Exactly.
All right.
It often implies a separation between you and what you want, almost like you're appealing to a cosmic genie or, sending out an order form.
Okay. And the law of assumption.
The law of assumption, or LOAS, as some sources shorthand it, posits something much more radical. It says you are the god of your reality.
Whoa, okay.
It emphasizes your inherent internal power. There's no external force controlling your reality except for what you impress upon your own subconscious mind. You're not asking, you're assuming it's already done because you are the source, the operant power.
So it's not about hoping some external force delivers. It's about recognizing my own internal, all-encompassing creative power. That feels much bigger.
It truly is a much more radical and some would say empowering idea. Yeah.
Interesting. What other differences are there?
Another really crucial distinction lies in this concept of thinking about something versus thinking from it.
Thinking about versus thinking from. Explain that.
Okay, so Loe might encourage thinking about the desired object. Let's use an example. Say, hoping your dad picks up those amazing apple pies you love from the bakery.
Okay, I like apple pies.
Right. So you're mentally focused on the pies as something external, something you hope will happen in the future.
Makes sense.
But Loas shifts this dramatically. It instructs you to think from the perspective of already having the desire. So instead of thinking about the pies...
I'm thinking as if I already have them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're mentally living from the experience of having them. You're assuming they're already in your kitchen cupboard. Maybe you're feeling the satisfaction of that first warm bite, smelling the cinnamon.
Hearing my family enjoying them.
Yes. You're embodying the result in your senses, making it an inner reality now, not just a distant wish. The 3D reality, the external world, then has to catch up, essentially, to emulate that inner state you're holding.
So it's like that quiet, deep knowing, like when you've ordered something online, you get the shipping confirmation and you just know it's on its way. You don't keep questioning if it's coming.
That's a great analogy. It's exactly that kind of settled certainty. You've assumed it's done.
That really helps differentiate the approach. You're embodying the result, not just like longing for the thing. Okay, what about emotions? Because Loe often places this huge emphasis on needing to be happy all the time or maintaining a high vibration, which honestly can feel like a lot of pressure.
Oh, absolutely. And I've seen some of our sources refer to that as, cartoonish or even potentially toxic positivity.
Right, because life happens. You can't always be skipping through a field of daisies.
Exactly. And LOAS offers a significantly more nuanced and, frankly, quite liberating perspective on emotions.
How so?
Well, as one Reddit user, Alice Mind, really insightfully points out, the state of the wish fulfilled, that feeling of already having it, isn't necessarily constant euphoria or bliss. It's more accurately described as a kind of neutral certainty.
Neutral certainty. Okay, I like the sound of that. Less pressure.
Right. It's a deep knowing that your desire is real, a profound inner conviction. It's not an obligation to feel ecstatically joyous every single second of the day.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about it this way. Millionaires still get angry sometimes, right?
Definitely.
People in incredibly fulfilling, loving relationships still get sad or stressed occasionally.
Of course.
And even someone in perfect physical health can have a bad day or feel a fleeting moment of depression.
Hmm.
These momentary emotional fluctuations don't change their fundamental state of having wealth or loving partner or good health.
Ah, okay. So the underlying assumption is stable, even if the surface emotions ripple.
Precisely. Your underlying assumption of having is what matters most, not your momentary emotional weather, which can naturally fluctuate throughout any normal human day. It's about a deep, settled conviction, an inner knowing that it is done, it is already yours.
That's actually a huge relief, I imagine, for a lot of people who struggle with that pressure to always be positive
Yeah.
or feel like they're failing if they have a bad day.
It really is. It takes that pressure off.
But how do we distinguish that neutral certainty from just indifference
Yeah.
or even apathy?
Yeah.
Is there a risk of becoming too passive if we're not, you know, constantly chasing that high vibration?
That's a really good question. It's definitely not about apathy. Apathy is a lack of caring, right? Neutral certainty is a deep, quiet knowing that it is. It's an unwavering conviction that's so deeply ingrained, it doesn't need external validation or frantic emotional energy to sustain it.
Okay.
The risk of becoming too passive is maybe more associated with just wishing and then letting go, hoping for the best, which is closer to some interpretations of low A. Low S actually demands active mental engagement
And how?
by constantly living from the end, internally, persistently affirming your desired reality inside your mind, especially when the 3D, the outside world, doesn't seem to reflect it yet. It's ongoing mental work, definitely, but not necessarily emotionally draining work in the same way.
Right. Persistent mental discipline rather than forced emotional state. Makes sense. Now, what about specificity and this idea of letting go? Lowe sometimes advises being kind of general or detaching from specific outcomes with the idea that the universe knows what's best for you.
Yeah, another key difference there. Lowy sometimes does suggest letting go or being general, maybe implying that if you're too specific, you're somehow interfering with the universe's grand plan, or maybe blocking something even better from coming along.
Okay.
Lois, however, asserts you don't need to detach in that sense. Instead, you live in the end, meaning you live in the full, vivid, and often very specific experience of having your desire fulfilled in your imagination.
So specificity is okay. I can imagine exactly what I want.
Absolutely. And crucially, it states you can manifest incredibly specific things, and yes, even specific people, which leads to probably the most challenging principle for many.
Uh-oh. What's that?
The law of assumption asserts that no one has free will except you within your personal reality.
Okay. Wait, no one else has free will. In my reality, that sounds problematic. What does that even mean?
It's definitely challenging and needs careful unpacking. It means that everyone you encounter, every single interaction, every person's behavior as you experience it in your individual reality is fundamentally reflecting your assumptions, your deeply held beliefs about them, or maybe about yourself in relation to them.
So if I assume someone is going to be difficult,
They will likely play that role in your experience if you assume they are kind and supportive.
they'll show up that way for me,
Yeah.
even if they're different with someone else.
That's the idea. It essentially means your world is like a stage play, and you are the sole writer and director of your personal play. Everyone else is playing the part you've assigned them through your assumptions.
Wow. That demands a radical, almost uncomfortable level of self-responsibility, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
But it also, I guess, completely removes any sense of victimhood.
Exactly. It offers an incredible, almost daunting sense of empowerment. It's not about controlling others in some manipulative, external way. It's about recognizing the absolute power of your internal state to literally dictate the roles people play in your life story.
So if I assume my boss is critical, they'll likely act critically towards me. If I shift my assumption to believing they're supportive.
Their behavior in your reality is expected to shift accordingly. This distinction is just vital for understanding how to apply these principles effectively and for avoiding common pitfalls, like feeling overwhelmed by needing constant positivity or being told you can't have specifically what you desire. It shifts the focus entirely inward. Your internal world becomes the prime mover, the cause.
Okay, this idea of our inner world dictating the outer,
Yeah.
it's truly mind-bending and really leads us straight into what Neville Goddard considered a core tenet, doesn't it? And this is where things get really interesting, maybe a bit challenging too. Because our sources repeatedly stress this phrase, what you are conscious of is the only reality.
Yes, a very central concept.
Can you expand on that? What does that profound statement truly mean for my day-to-day experience?
Well, it essentially means your world, your entire life experience, is fundamentally made up of the content of your consciousness, what you hold in your awareness.
Hmm. So give me an example.
Okay. If you find yourself experiencing lack in some area, maybe it's being financially broke, right? Or perhaps even if you have money, you live in constant fear of spending it.
Yeah, that scarcity mindset.
Exactly. Our sources would argue that's because you are conscious of lack. You are holding that state of consciousness, that belief system, as true for yourself. It's what you're aware of being.
So it's not just about the external situation, but my internal awareness of it.
Precisely. To truly shift your life and experience a different reality, you have to, as Neville Goddard taught, consciously shift your consciousness. You have to actively decide to let go of the old man, that old personality, those old limiting beliefs, that old story you've maybe been telling yourself for years.
And embody the new
And embody the new personality, the one that is already conscious of having its desire. You become conscious of being the person who has what you want.
So if I'm constantly conscious of not having something, I'll just keep experiencing not having it, no matter what's objectively around me.
That's the principle, yeah.
Wow. That really sounds like a profound call to self-responsibility, and maybe touches on that idea of avoiding a victim mentality.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that your concept of yourself, who you believe yourself to be, is the single most powerful factor shaping your experience.
Why self-concept?
Yeah. If your concept of yourself is one of, say, failure or always being overlooked, then you will, according to this law, continually encounter situations and people that conform to that concept.
But if I change it,
If you genuinely change your concept of yourself to one of success or being cherished or being capable, then the events ahead of you in time are altered to reflect that new self-concept.
that makes sense when you think about people who might have a lot of money but are still deeply anxious about it, right?
Yeah.
Always fearing loss.
Exactly. They're still operating from a consciousness of lack, even surrounded by abundance, because their focus, their awareness is on losing it, not simply having it.
So this principle means there are no second causes, no external forces acting independently on my life. It all comes back to my own mind, my own consciousness.
That's the core assertion. Your concept of yourself is everything.
Okay. That's an incredible level of personal accountability. And a huge part of this inner working, according to our sources, especially Dr. Joseph Murphy, is the subconscious mind.
Yes, absolutely.
Murphy, in his famous book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, really dives into this unseen but apparently incredibly powerful aspect of our being. He offers maybe a more scientific-sounding lens to these ideas.
He does. Dr. Murphy describes the subconscious as the master mechanic, the infinite intelligence, and truly the treasure house within you. It's this incredibly powerful part of us that operates largely outside our conscious awareness, yet influences literally everything in our physical world.
The master mechanic, I like that.
Yeah, think of it as always being on the job, 24/7. It's silently regulating countless bodily functions, your heartbeat, your breathing, healing cuts when you get them, digesting your food.
Just stuff I don't even think about.
Exactly, all without you needing to consciously direct it. It's also often where answers to problems seem to just pop into our heads, maybe during sleep or when we're relaxed, which shows its constant background activity.
That's truly incredible when you stop and think about it. This constant invisible activity orchestrating so much of our existence. What are its other key characteristics? What makes it so powerful for manifestation?
Well, crucially, the subconscious mind is described as non-argumentative.
Non-argumentative meaning.
It doesn't analyze, it doesn't question, it doesn't argue controversially with the suggestions it receives from your conscious mind or your strong feelings. It basically accepts them as true.
Whether they're good or bad. Logical or illogical.
Exactly. Whether they are right or wrong, beneficial or detrimental, it accepts the suggestion. And once it accepts it, it proceeds with all its supposed infinite intelligence to bring it to pass in your experience.
Wow. So it's like a super efficient assistant, but totally literal.
That's a great way to put it. Very literal. This is why our sources repeatedly state that it works for good and bad ideas alike. It's merely executing the blueprint it's given without judgment. You tell it, I'm always broke, and it diligently finds ways to make sure you experience being broke without questioning the why of your instruction.
Yikes. Okay, good to know. What else?
Furthermore, it's the seed of habit.
The seed of habit. Okay.
Through repetition, whether that's repetition of thoughts, feelings, or even physical actions, new concepts become familiar, natural, and eventually automatic to the subconscious mind. And by extension, this physically rewires our brain through neuroplasticity.
So repetition really locks things in.
It seems to be key. Dr. Murphy uses this really compelling analogy. Think of a magnetized piece of steel. It can lift maybe 12 times its own weight, right?
Okay.
But if you demagnetize that same piece of steel, it can't even lift a feather.
Oh, I see.
This vividly represents the magnetized person, someone full of confidence and faith in their desired reality, versus the demagnetized person who's riddled with fears and doubts. Understanding this immense power means taking full responsibility for the mental building blocks we use every day.
Our thoughts and beliefs.
Exactly. They are quite literally forming our mental home, our personality, our experiences, our entire life story. The subconscious just builds whatever blueprint you give it.
Okay, so given this non-argumentative nature, this power, this connection to habit, what does it all mean when Neville Goddard famously says, feeling is the secret?
Ah, yes. Big
It's
guy.
quoted all the time, right? But what does it really imply about the role of emotions in this process? Because, for me, feeling usually conjures up intense stuff like ecstatic joy or deep sadness. But you suggested earlier it might be more nuanced.
That's a perfect question because the nuance here is absolutely critical and often missed. Neville does state that feeling is the one and only medium through which ideas are conveyed to the subconscious. So yes, feeling is absolutely essential.
Right.
However, it's crucial to understand that feeling it real, as he puts it, isn't necessarily about generating intense ecstatic emotion all the time.
So what is it then?
It's more about the knowing, the inner certainty, that deep conviction that your desire is already a fact. It's that neutral certainty we talked about earlier, rather than a constantly heightened emotional state.
So it's the feeling of the wish fulfilled,
Hmm.
which might just be relief or normalcy.
Exactly. It's the feeling of relief, of naturalness, of the normalcy of having what you desire, rather than the intense longing or excitement of still wanting or getting it. It's the feeling that corresponds to the state of already being that person or already having that thing.
That's a really important distinction, especially for people maybe like me, who sometimes struggle to just conjure up intense positive emotions on command.
Right. It takes that pressure off again.
So are strong emotions ever useful then, or are they just a distraction if they're not channeled correctly?
Oh, they can definitely be effective. Our sources clarify that strong emotions can be very powerful if they are directed towards your desired state. Why? Because they tend to deepen the impression on the subconscious.
Like carving a deeper groove.
Precisely. As Reddit user Jen Su explains quite well, experiencing emotions doesn't necessarily negate your manifestation. You can feel a whole range of emotions in life, positive, negative, neutral, and still maintain that deep underlying knowing that your desire is fulfilled.
So I don't have to beat myself up if I feel sad or doubtful for a moment.
Not according to this perspective. It's crucial for people who are naturally more emotional not to feel like they're doing it wrong if they experience doubt or sadness. Intense emotions can actually deepen the groove for thoughts to stream into the subconscious, much like how a traumatic event can create very deep neural pathways associated with fear or pain.
Okay.
So directed, heightened emotions like intense joy focused on the end result can indeed be useful for impressing the subconscious more quickly or deeply, but they are not an absolute prerequisite. The persistent, conscious assumption, coupled with that inner feeling of knowing it's done, is what truly matters most.
Can you give an example where maybe it wasn't intense emotion, but that knowing that did the trick?
Absolutely. We see this vividly in some powerful stories of healing. Take the case of Madame Bier, a woman mentioned by Murphy, who was blind because her optic nerves had apparently atrophied.
Wow.
She miraculously regained her sight. And the explanation given is that it wasn't through some specific emotional state of constant joy, but through her subconscious mind responding to her unwavering belief and confident expectation that she could see. The feeling was one of profound certainty, of knowing.
So the certainty was the key feeling.
Exactly. Or consider that other story, the man with tuberculosis whose son used that fake splinter of the true cross, which was actually just a piece of wood from the sidewalk.
Really, you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah. He used it to inflame his father's imagination and create a confident expectancy of healing. The father believed implicitly in the relic, placed the ring with the wood on his chest, prayed with immense faith, and awoke healed. It wasn't the wood's power. It was the inflamed imagination and the absolute conviction, the feeling of certainty of it is done, that moved the subconscious to manifest physical healing. That feeling was paramount.
Okay, so if imagination creates reality, and our subconscious is this master mechanic ready to build whatever we impress upon it with feeling, how do we actually do that? How do we put this into practice? It sounds like a lot of internal work, but where does the rubber meet the road,
Right. It starts, as you mentioned, with deliberately adopting a new state of being internally.
Oh, adopting a new state.
Yeah. The absolute key, according to these teachings, is to become the person who already has their desire, but in your imagination first.
Become that person internally.
Yes. You essentially identify mentally with already having it. You learn to think as if. This means consciously choosing to align your internal narrative, your inner conversations, your assumptions, and your felt reality with the person you want to be and the experiences you want to have.
So it's not about, like, pretending on the outside, which can feel kind of fake sometimes.
Not primarily, no. While outer actions can follow, the core work is about truly shifting your internal identity, your self-concept, to embody that desired state right here, right now, in your imagination.
So that old saying, act as if, is pretty literal here, isn't it? Like, you're mentally rehearsing for the role of your ideal self.
It's perhaps more literal than many people realize. If you want to be more confident, for example, the advice is to act confident first in your imagination. See yourself speaking clearly, making eye contact, taking on challenges you might usually shy away from. Feel the feeling of confidence.
And then,
when the opportunity arises in your daily life, in the 3D, you try to take that confident action, drawing on the inner rehearsal. You're embodying those qualities mentally and, when possible, physically, until they become so natural, so familiar, that your subconscious fully accepts them as your new default state. Your outer actions always try to conform to your inner assumptions, so by consciously acting from that new state, you reinforce the assumption.
okay, that makes sense. Practice it inside first. Now, one of the most fundamental techniques our sources repeatedly recommend, especially Neville Goddard, is something called SAT.
Ah, yes, SATs, very central.
It sounds like a really powerful gateway to the subconscious. What exactly is it?
SATs is indeed presented as a remarkably powerful technique, mainly because of when you do it.
The timing matters.
Hugely. The idea is to engage in this practice just as you're drifting off to sleep. That drowsy, hypnagogic state, that twilight zone between being fully awake and fully asleep.
Yeah, where thoughts get kind of weird sometimes.
Exactly. That state is described by Goddard as the highest degree of outcropping of the subconscious. It's when your critical, analytical conscious mind is naturally subdued, quieted down.
Oh, okay. Less resistance.
Precisely. This reduces mental effort and helps neutralize negative thoughts and resistance, making the subconscious incredibly receptive, like fertile soil ready for planting seeds.
So what's the method? What do you actually do in SATs?
The method involves going to sleep in the state of the wish fulfilled. You create a short, simple, vivid scene in your imagination, a scene that clearly implies your wish is already realized.
It implies it's done. Like, not the process of getting it, but the end result.
Exactly, the end result. And you engage all your senses in that scene. What would you see, hear, touch, maybe even smell or taste if your desire were already a fact? You loop this short scene over and over, feeling its reality, immersing yourself fully in that imagined experience until you drift off to sleep in that feeling.
So it's about making that imagined scene feel as real and natural as possible, almost like a waking dream you fall asleep in.
That's a perfect description, like a waking dream you fall asleep in. The purpose of repeatedly entering this state with your chosen scene is, again, repetition to take an unfamiliar concept and make it familiar, natural, and automatic to our brain and subconscious.
Got it. Can you share one of those examples you mentioned? Like the soldier?
Oh, yeah, the soldier story is classic Neville.
Yeah.
He tells of a soldier back in 1943 who desperately wanted an honorable discharge from the army, which seemed impossible at the time.
Okay.
So every night in SATs, he didn't imagine getting the discharge papers, no. He imagined himself already out of the army and specifically back in his own apartment in New York City.
Ah, the end result.
Exactly. He vividly pictured walking through each room, touching familiar pieces of furniture, looking out his window at the city, feeling the immense relief and the simple reality of being home, sleeping in his own bed. He'd fall asleep wrapped in that feeling.
And what happened?
Within weeks, the seemingly impossible manifested. He received an unexpected, honorable discharge.
Wow.
And there are other great examples too, like the young boy who desperately wanted a puppy.
Oh,
Every night as he drifted to sleep, he imagined the puppy lying next to him in bed. He imagined feeling its soft fur, playing with it, taking it for walks. He lived the having of the puppy in essays.
don't leave me hanging.
Within weeks, he won a beautiful collie puppy in an essay contest he'd entered.
No way. That's amazing.
Right, or the couple who wanted to be stationed in Florida. Every night before sleep, they'd take off their shoes, turn out the lights, and imagine feeling the warm Florida breeze, smelling the salt air, pushing their toes into the sand, feeling the joy of being there.
And did it work?
Within 48 hours, their orders were miraculously changed from wherever they were going to Florida.
48 hours.
Yeah. These aren't just charming anecdotes, right? They're presented as direct illustrations of the effect of consistently impressing the subconscious with the felt reality of your desired state, especially in that receptive SATS condition.
Okay, SE sounds incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, beyond SEs, our sources also delve really deeply into the power of affirmations, but they also seem to clarify what affirmations truly are, which might be quite different from how many people think of them, like just repeating positive statements mindlessly.
That's a really key distinction, actually, because, yeah, many people misunderstand affirmations. In the context of the law of assumption, affirmations are defined simply as choosing our thoughts.
Choosing our thoughts. So it's not a separate technique necessarily.
Not as much as it's a conscious, deliberate direction of your inner dialogue, your mental environment. As one Reddit source puts it quite bluntly, you can't not affirm.
Wait, I can't not affirm. What does that mean?
It means even dwelling on your current unwanted circumstances, complaining about your past, worrying about the future, rehashing your old story. That is an affirmation. It's affirming that reality. You are constantly affirming something simply by what you allow to occupy your mind, whether you're doing it consciously or, more often, unconsciously.
Wow. Okay. So we're always affirming, whether we realize it or not. The goal then is to become deliberate affirmers of our desired reality.
Exactly. Take control of the affirming process.
So how do we make sure our affirmations are actually working for us and not just, empty words we're repeating?
Well, there are several key principles our sources highlight that seem to elevate affirmations from just wishful thinking into genuinely powerful tools for impressing the subconscious.
Okay, like what?
First, always craft affirmations in the present tense. Use I am instead of I will be.
Why is that important?
Because I will be implies future, it implies you don't have it now. Saying I am successful instead of I will be successful helps your subconscious accept it as a current reality. It closes the gap.
Got it. Present tense. What else?
Second, use positive phrasing. Focus on what you do want, not what you don't want.
Example.
So affirm, I am healthy and vibrant, rather than I am not sick. The subconscious tends to work with the images and feelings presented, so focusing on not sick might still keep the image of sickness around. Focus on the positive desired state.
Okay, present tense, positive phrasing. Anything else?
Third, and this is critically important for impressing the subconscious, repetition is key.
Repetition again, like with essays.
Exactly. Think about how we master almost anything in life, learning a language, playing an instrument, training muscles in the gym. It's through repetition. It's essential for installing new beliefs and assumptions, for making them feel familiar, normal, and automatic to our brain.
So just keep at it.
Keep at it. Neville Goddard himself stressed looping an imaginal scene repeatedly in essays, which is really a form of nonverbal affirmation, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it is.
And some sources, particularly in the Reddit communities, even advocate for something called robotic affirming.
Robotic affirming? What's that? It sounds, robotic.
It kind of is. It means mindlessly repeating affirmations, sometimes hundreds or even thousands of times a day, almost like a mantra, without necessarily trying to feel intense emotion with each repetition.
And that works. Just mindless repetition.
Apparently, for some people, it can be a surprisingly powerful way to bypass conscious resistance and just saturate the subconscious, making the new thoughts dominant simply through sheer volume. Some find it works even faster than essays.
Interesting. Different strokes for different folks, I guess.
Seems so. The amount of repetition needed varies greatly, depending on the individual, how much resistance they have, the depth of the old beliefs. But the ultimate goal is for your desired thoughts, your chosen affirmations, to become your unquestionable dominant thoughts.
Okay. Can you share that business executive example?
Oh yeah, the executive who was struggling with resentment towards colleagues and seeing his business decline. He made a conscious commitment to consistently affirm, internally, All those working in our corporation are honest, sincere, cooperative, faithful, and full of goodwill to all. He kept repeating this, focusing on the positive qualities in his associates, changing his inner assumption about them.
And the result?
His experience transformed. His business relationships improved dramatically, cooperation increased, and his business became more profitable, all reflecting his persistent internal shift in affirmation.
Wow. Okay, so this constant mental vigilance, this intentional thought choosing, it leads us to another critical and maybe often challenging aspect of this practice, the mental diet.
Yes, the mental diet, absolutely crucial.
Well, what exactly is it? Is it just about thinking positive thoughts?
It's a bit more rigorous than just thinking positive. The mental diet is, at its core, simply being aware of what you're thinking and then taking radical, unwavering responsibility for it. It's a conscious commitment to only think thoughts that align with your desire already being true, to think from the end, no matter what the outside world looks like.
No matter what, that sounds tough.
It can be. It means consciously monitoring your thoughts throughout the day, your inner conversations, your reactions, your assumptions, and immediately redirecting, revising, or dropping any thought, feeling, or inner dialogue that contradicts your desired reality.
But what if your brain just runs wild, with negative thoughts, old patterns, worries? It feels like sometimes my brain just has a mind of its own, especially when it comes to negativity. It can feel like a real uphill battle to maintain that diet.
I hear you. And our sources address this directly, but it requires a really deeply honest self-assessment. They state quite clearly, there is no my thoughts brain acting on their own. It's you.
Ouch. Okay.
It means you are the one allowing or choosing thoughts that don't serve your desired end. It's a call for deep accountability, which, yeah, can feel triggering at first, but ultimately it's meant to emphasize that you have the power to choose what you give your attention to.
So if I catch myself thinking, but look at my circumstances. They're so real, they contradict my desire. I'm already off the diet.
You're allowing the 3D, the old picture, to dictate your inner state again. The mental diet demands persistence. You have to maintain a clean mental diet, focusing only on the wish fulfilled for as long as it takes until your desire manifests, and even after. Don't let current 3D circumstances, past events, or other people's opinions derail that inner focus.
That takes serious discipline.
It really does. Think about that example, maybe a bit extreme but illustrative, of obsessively Facebook stalking an ex-partner after a breakup.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Been there, done that, unfortunately.
All that visual data you're taking in, all those repetitive thoughts. What are they doing? Who are they with? Are they happier without me? All the what-ifs and comparisons. Where does that go?
Straight into my subconscious, I guess.
Exactly. And what is it affirming? It's affirming that there's something to find, something to fear, something lacking in your own life. And what often happens?
Your worst fears seem to come true. You find something that upsets you.
Precisely. Because, as one source puts it quite graphically, you felt that shit real. Your mental diet, your persistent inner focus, whether positive or negative, determines your destiny. It demands discipline, like training for a mental marathon, but the promised payoff is total control over your inner world and, consequently, your outer experience.
Okay, so we're talking about incredible self-responsibility here, real mental discipline. But let's be real. What happens when doubts creep in? Or you feel that familiar resistance, that inner friction, that, this feels impossible, feeling that seems to hold you back from fully embracing these new assumptions. It's just a very common human experience, right? To encounter that internal pushback when trying to change something significant.
It absolutely is, probably the most common challenge, and our sources are very clear about this. Resistance, whether it shows up as doubts, fears, anxieties, replays of old negative memories, self-criticism, feelings of unworthiness, low self-esteem, that is identified as the only real obstacle to manifesting your desires.
The only obstacle, not the external circumstances.
Not according to this law. The obstacle is internal resistance. But the crucial insight here is how to handle it. The advice is generally not to fight it directly.
Don't fight it. Why not? Isn't that like giving in?
Because fighting it often just intensifies it, gives it more energy. Instead, you're advised to try and accept these feelings and let them flow.
Accept them. Even the negative ones.
Yeah. Be present with them. Acknowledge their presence without judging yourself for having them. Maybe even label it neutrally, like, there's that feeling of doubt again, or just feel it as energy in your body. Accept its presence without identifying with it as your truth, and then ideally just let it fade away without grabbing onto it.
So it's not about suppressing it, pretending it's not there.
No, definitely not suppression. It's more like acknowledging, disengaging, and releasing, like noticing a cloud pass through the sky. You see it, you acknowledge it, but you don't become the cloud. You let it drift by.
Okay, that's a helpful visual. Observing rather than wrestling. So it's not about forcing positivity when you're feeling negative,
Yeah.
but a more gentle, observing approach.
Exactly. Sometimes this resistance stems from really deep-seated core beliefs that maybe got formed in childhood unconscious patterns like, it's all a lie, nothing ever works out for me, I always fail, the world is against me, or just a pervasive victim mentality.
Yeah, those old tapes playing.
Right. Recognizing these beliefs for what they often are, maybe irrational, illogical ghosts from the past, or just old, outdated mental programming can help them lose their power and start to disappear. Just seeing them clearly can be incredibly freeing.
And what about that feeling of just being stuck in misery? Like it's almost comfortable in a weird way.
That's another insidious aspect of resistance. Our sources mention the body's attempt to keep you in a comfort zone of misery. It sounds strange, but we can literally become biochemically addicted to feeling sad or anxious due to the chemicals the body gets used to releasing in response to those habitual negative thought patterns.
Wow. Addicted to feeling sad.
Yeah. In those cases, again, the advice is to accept the negative feelings without identifying as a sad or anxious person. You observe the feeling, maybe like you'd observe a temporary muscle ache, it's there, it's uncomfortable, but you don't let it define your core identity or your ultimate destination, your chosen state.
So patience is important here too, presumably. This releasing doesn't always happen instantly.
Patience is key, yes. And interestingly, the sources suggest that genuine patience naturally arises when the desired state truly starts to feel natural to you. When you fully live in the state of the wish fulfilled internally, you stop wanting it so desperately because in your inner world, you know you already have it. That frantic wanting dissipates, and patience comes more easily.
Okay. So the more natural the inner state feels, the less impatient you are for the outer result.
Exactly. This whole approach ultimately is about persuasion, gently but persistently saturating the subconscious with your new reality, not about coercion or forcing an immediate perfect emotional state all the time.
That makes sense. Knowing versus wanting. Now, one of the biggest hurdles, I imagine, for many people trying to apply these principles must be maintaining this inner focus when the external 3D reality seems to stubbornly contradict your desire. Sometimes, quite starkly. Right. Like the evidence is right there in front of you.
Oh, absolutely. This is precisely where unwavering faith and persistence become absolutely paramount. It's probably the biggest test.
So what do the sources say about that? When the 3D is screaming the opposite of what you're assuming?
They consistently reiterate that the 3D reality, what you see, hear, touch right now, is merely an old image. It's just a reflection of your past assumptions. Therefore, it actually holds no significance in determining your current potential or your future manifestation.
Holds no significance. That's hard to swallow sometimes.
It is, because reacting to the 3D, letting it dictate your inner state, your feelings, your thoughts now, is exactly what gives that old picture truth and power in the present. It keeps the old pattern going.
So the instruction is?
The consistent instruction is to maintain indifference to the 3D.
Indifference. Wow. Okay, so if I see things in my physical world, maybe my bank account is still low, or that specific person hasn't called, or the promotion didn't come through yet, I shouldn't give it any emotional or mental energy. Just ignore it.
It's less about ignoring it in the sense of denying it exists and more about not letting it affect your inner state of already having your desire. It's incredibly difficult, yes, because our default human programming is to react strongly to our circumstances. But the teaching is, by reacting emotionally to the old picture, you are inadvertently assigning truth to it now. You're validating it. And that pulls you right out of your desired state, the state of the wish fulfilled.
So persistence means having faith in my assumption, regardless of what the 3D mirror is showing me right now.
Exactly. It's knowing deep down that your inner world is the sole cause and the outer world is just a delayed effect, which must eventually catch up if you persist internally. Remember that story about Neville Goddard himself wanting to go to Barbados?
Yeah, you mentioned his doubts.
Right. His conscious mind was apparently riddled with doubts, worries, and fears about how it could possibly happen, given his financial situation at the time. Yet, he still persisted in his imaginal act of being in Barbados, feeling it real in essence. And he still manifested the trip.
So the doubts didn't stop it.
Apparently not. And this illustrates a key point. Fleeting doubts and contrary thoughts don't necessarily matter unless you indulge in them, unless you give them sustained mental attention and belief. If you let a contradictory 3D circumstance make you spiral into doubt and fear, then you are indulging in thoughts that affirm the old, unwanted reality. You're essentially canceling out your assumption.
That's a really powerful lesson. Thoughts don't matter unless you indulge in them. Give them residency in your mind.
Exactly. Persist in the assumption.
Okay. Now, sometimes it seems our very efforts to manifest, maybe trying too hard, can paradoxically backfire. There's this phenomenon sometimes called the law of reversed effort. That must be incredibly frustrating for someone who feels like they're doing everything right.
Oh, it absolutely can be. And understanding this is crucial to avoid a common pitfall. The law of reversed effort basically describes what happens when your desires and imagination are in conflict.
Desire and imagination in conflict. How?
Well, in such cases, your imagination, especially when backed by strong feeling, often fear, invariably gains the day over your mere willpower or desire. If you try too hard, if you exert too much mental striving or force to make something happen, it often indicates an underlying anxiety, a fear, a subconscious doubt that it won't actually happen.
So the effort itself comes from a place of doubt.
Often, yes. And that very anxiety, that fear of failure, that feeling of efforting against resistance, is itself an assumption of difficulty or impossibility. And that assumption acts as a blocker to your desired outcome.
So the effort, born of fear or doubt, actually works against the desire, creating a vicious cycle.
Precisely. Dr. Joseph Murphy provides a great analogy to clarify this. Imagine you're asked to walk along a plank of wood lying flat on the floor.
Easy peasy.
Right. You do it without a second thought. There's no effort, no fear. Your desire to walk and imagination of easily walking are aligned.
Okay.
But now, take that exact same plank and place it 20 feet up in the air between two walls.
Oh, okay, different story.
Totally different story. Your desire to walk across it might still be there, maybe to get to the other side, but it would likely be instantly counteracted, maybe even overwhelmed by your imagination, the vivid mental picture and visceral feeling of falling.
Yeah, my imagination would be screaming danger.
Exactly. The dominant idea, the dominant feeling in this case, fear and the image of falling, would conquer your desire or willpower to walk. And your effort would be reversed. You'd likely freeze, wobble, maybe even fall, precisely because of the imaginative fear.
Wow. Okay, that makes it crystal clear.
So the key, according to Murphy and others, is that the conscious mind, your desire, your will, and the subconscious mind, your dominant feeling, your imagination, your assumption, must be in harmonious union. They need to agree.
No quarrel between them.
Right. When there's no quarrel between your conscious thought and your subconscious feeling or assumption, your prayer, your manifestation is answered. This is why phrases like easy does it and relaxation is the key are so profoundly emphasized in these teachings. When your mind is relaxed, receptive, and accepts an idea without conflict or anxious striving, your subconscious immediately gets to work to execute it effortlessly and naturally. Trying too hard signals conflict.
So we've talked a lot about manifesting things like trips, relationships, puppies. But the principles of assumption apparently aren't just for material desires or specific circumstances. Our sources share some powerful, even astonishing examples related to physical and mental healing. This really expands the scope of what's supposedly possible, doesn't it? It moves beyond just getting what you want to potentially transforming your very being.
Absolutely, and profoundly so. The logic follows directly. If the subconscious mind is the master mechanic that created the body and regulates all its vital functions constantly.
Heartbeat, breathing, healing cuts.
Exactly. Then it also possesses the inherent capacity to heal the body. Our sources provide really compelling case studies where the subconscious apparently responded directly to unwavering belief and vivid mental pictures of perfect health. Cases where it reportedly restored atrophied optic nerves in blindness or healed serious illnesses simply because the mind was saturated with the perfect idea of health.
So it can recreate what it first created if given the right blueprint.
That's the assertion. It responds directly to the blueprint, the assumption. You impress upon it with faith and feeling.
Can you remind us of a couple of those vivid healing examples? Those stories are always so compelling, whether you take them literally or metaphorically.
Certainly. One of the most remarkable cases often cited, particularly by Murphy, is that of Madame Bier in France. She was diagnosed with complete blindness due to optic nerves that were medically assessed as atrophied and useless.
Okay, that's pretty definitive medically.
It does. Yet through what was described as a miraculous healing, attributed entirely to her subconscious mind responding to her profound belief and unwavering expectation of seeing, she regained her sight. Interestingly, doctors who examined her immediately after she claimed she could see initially found her optic nerves still appeared lifeless and useless under examination, yet she saw.
Wow. So the function returned before the physical structure apparently changed.
That's how the story is told.
Yeah.
It reportedly took about a month for the seeing mechanism to be medically confirmed as restored to normal function. This is presented not as a simple placebo effect, but as the subconscious mind, the master mechanic, responding directly to an idea, an assumption of perfect health impressed upon it with absolute conviction.
The conviction was key.
It seems so. And then there's that other profound illustration, again from Murphy, about his relative who had advanced tuberculosis.
Right, with the fake relic.
Yeah, the son, wanting desperately to heal his father, gave him that splinter of the true cross, just a piece of wood from the sidewalk set in a ring. But he did it specifically to inflame his father's imagination and create a confident expectancy of healing.
And the father bought it.
He believed implicitly in the power of this supposed relic. He placed the ring on his chest, prayed with immense faith, really felt the healing power, and apparently awoke the next morning completely healed. All subsequent medical tests reportedly came back negative for tuberculosis.
Incredible. So again, it wasn't the wood.
It was the inflamed imagination and the absolute conviction of healing that moved the subconscious to manifest physical restoration. The assumption, fueled by belief, did the work.
Okay. And what about mental well-being? Can these principles help with things like anxiety or phobias?
Definitely. Constructive autosuggestion, which is really just consciously choosing and repeating beneficial affirmations and mental images, is presented as key for mental well-being. We heard that example of the young lady who overcame severe stage fright.
Right, the singer.
Yeah, by repeatedly affirming, I sing beautifully, I am poised, serene, confident, and calm. She did it slowly, quietly, and with feeling several times a day, and especially before sleep. She systematically reconditioned the negative patterns associated with performing.
So she counteracted the negative suggestions she probably held.
Exactly. She counteracted what Murphy calls heterosuggestions, which are basically negative ideas or beliefs impressed upon us from outside sources. Things like other people's opinions, societal expectations, past criticisms, media narratives.
Suggestions from others. Heterosuggestions make
Right.
sense.
We also have the story of the medical student who kept freezing up during exams, suffering from amnesia.
Oh, nightmare.
Totally. He overcame it by repeatedly imagining his mother congratulating him on his wonderful exam results before he took the exams. He impressed his subconscious with the feeling of success and relief, rather than the fear of failure. These examples really highlight the subconscious's immense power to reshape both physical and mental states when it's saturated with a dominant positive assumption.
It's clear how that internal focus can profoundly affect our physical and mental state. Now, applying these laws, as you touched on earlier, isn't just about what you get as an individual, it's also deeply about how you relate to others, and even how you experience your most important relationships, which means your personal reality kind of extends to include the people you interact with, which again is a very challenging concept for many.
It's a crucial extension of the law of assumption, yeah. And it ties directly back to that potentially controversial idea of no one having free will in your reality.
Right, because my subconscious is reproducing my assumptions about them.
Exactly. Your subconscious mind faithfully reproduces your habitual thinking. And this absolutely includes your thoughts and feelings about other people. Our sources often illustrate this through the lens of the golden rule, but applying it internally first. As you would that men should think about you, think you about them in like manner. Meaning your inner speech, your silent thoughts, your feelings, your assumptions about others is inevitably experienced in their reactions and behavior toward you.
So if I'm constantly criticizing someone in my head, or resenting them, or feeling them,
You're inadvertently impressing your subconscious with that critical, resentful, or fearful pattern, and it tends to bring those negative reactions back to you through their behavior and your experience. You're essentially creating the negative interaction through your inner assumption about it.
yikes. So if I want better relationships, whether it's with family, colleagues, or romantic partner, I need to start by changing my inner dialogue and assumptions about them, even if their current behavior seems to totally justify my negative thoughts.
That's precisely the advice given. Even if the 3D evidence seems contradictory, you start the change within. Take that compelling example of the salesman who harbored deep resentment toward his manager.
Yeah, he felt unfairly treated.
Right, and his manager's behavior reflected that assumption back to him. But when he consciously began to mentally shift, to pray for his manager, wishing him health, success, peace of mind, and happiness, basically, assuming the best for him internally,
His own experience changed.
dramatically, he persisted in this inner change of feeling and assumption about his manager. Eventually, not only did his relationship with the manager improve significantly, but the salesman himself received an unexpected promotion and a significant salary increase. His outer world realigned with his new inner state regarding his manager.
Wow. And the secretary who hated women.
Similar story. A private secretary who apparently hated women due to constant office gossip and conflict found her coworkers miraculously transformed into friendly, supportive allies after she deliberately changed her own inner speech and assumptions about them. She stopped affirming conflict and started affirming harmony internally.
So it really starts with me, with my assumptions about others. What about romantic relationships? Finding a partner or improving a marriage?
Same principle applies. For attracting the right mate, if single, the advice is not to focus on loneliness or past disappointments, but to dwell mentally on the desired qualities of an ideal partner. Build that mental equivalent, that feeling of already being in that happy relationship internally first. Assume the feeling of being loved, cherished, respected.
And for existing relationships, that might be struggling.
Instead of complaining about your partner or discussing marital problems with neighbors or friends, which only reinforces the negative pattern by giving it energy and attention.
Which is so tempting to do sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. But the advice here is to, instead, mentally picture your wife as she ought to be, joyous, happy, healthy, and beautiful, or your husband as strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and kind. Whatever qualities you desire. You hold that consistent inner vision of the ideal partner, assume it to be true with conviction and feeling, and according to the law, the relationship must eventually conform to that dominant assumption. You are literally reshaping the person in your mind, and by doing so, reshaping their reflection in your reality.
That requires incredible mental discipline and choosing love over resentment internally.
It absolutely does. It's a profound act of internal responsibility.
Okay, the implications seem to extend even further, even to our understanding of time itself, suggesting a surprising degree of control over our personal history. This sounds pretty mind-bending, almost like science fiction. Are we talking about actually like rewriting the past?
It is indeed mind-bending, yeah. And it speaks to the fundamental nature of reality proposed by these teachings. Our sources, particularly Goddard, explain that time is an illusion.
An illusion.
Yeah, asserting that the past and future exist only as concepts, as memories or anticipations within our minds. They don't exist as fixed, linear realities out there. All possibilities, all versions of events, past, present, future, are said to exist simultaneously here and now, within the eternal present moment of our consciousness.
Wow, okay. That's a big concept to wrap your head around.
It is, but it's not just a philosophical idea. It has profound practical applications, particularly through a technique Neville Goddard taught called revision.
Revision of the past. How does that work? Are we literally erasing past events or just changing our memory of them?
It's a bit of both, perhaps, but primarily it works at the level of your internal reality, which then, supposedly, reverberates outwards into your present and future. The technique of revision allows you to mentally revise the past, specifically unpleasant or traumatic events, to rid yourself of their negative emotional and mental effects on your future.
How do you do it?
You mentally re-experience a past event, but this time you rewrite the script. You imagine it playing out differently in a way that serves your desired reality now, or simply in a way that feels better, more harmonious, resolved. By doing this repeatedly, especially in SATs, you cleanse yourself of the event's negative emotional charge and its limiting impact on your present assumptions.
So you change your relationship to the event, neutralize its power.
Exactly. Revision is described by Goddard as truly the key, which can be used to unlock the doors that have kept you trapped in a particular state due to past hurt or failures. The purpose isn't necessarily to deny what factually happened in the 3D, but to be transformed by the renewing of your mind, neutralizing the past's negative power over your present self-concept and future expectations. You effectively create a new causal chain leading forward from that revised inner past.
That's fascinating. So you're changing the meaning and impact of the past internally.
Precisely. And remember that story about the man who inadvertently manifested a car accident once from just a fleeting but intensely felt thought?
Yeah, the negative manifestation.
He was driving, had a momentary vivid thought of being in a car crash, felt it viscerally true for just a moment with intense fear, and within less than 2 minutes, bam, he was actually involved in a small but real car accident.
That quick.
That's the story. It's used to demonstrate how quickly reality can sometimes align with deeply impressed ideas, whether positive or negative, and how all possibilities seem to exist right here, right now, ready to be activated by assumption. Revision allows you to apply that same principle deliberately and constructively to past events, changing their internal impact and thus altering their trajectory into your future.
Incredible. Okay, finally, this deep dive seems to offer some really profound insights into cultivating lasting happiness and even completely reframing our perspective on aging, which definitely challenges a lot of our societal norms and fears about getting older.
It really does. Happiness, according to these sources, especially Dr. Murphy, isn't presented as some transitory emotion that's dependent on external experiences or fleeting circumstances. I'll be happy when.
Right, the conditional happiness trap.
Exactly. Instead, happiness is presented fundamentally as a choice and a habit, something you cultivate internally first. You can start each day, for instance, with deliberate affirmations like, I choose happiness today, I choose success today, I choose harmonious relationships today.
So you claim it first, internally.
You claim it. This deliberate internal choice, impressed upon the subconscious, sets the tone, the assumption, for your entire experience that day, regardless of what the external 3D might initially present. Happiness is also described beautifully as the harvest of a quiet mind.
The harvest of a quiet mind.
Yeah, meaning it's achieved by consciously anchoring your thoughts on peace, poise, security, divine guidance, whatever feels harmonious to you, rather than letting external chaos or negativity dictate your inner state. It truly is an inside job.
I like that. Happiness is an inside job. And what about aging? That's something so many people in our culture dread or try desperately to fight, spending fortunes to appear younger. This framework seems to offer a completely different, much more empowering perspective.
It's a remarkably empowering perspective, yes, and truly countercultural. Our sources, again, particularly Murphy, drawing on Goddard's ideas too, highlight that the mind and the spirit never grow old.
The mind and spirit never grow old.
That's the assertion. Old age isn't seen as some tragic occurrence or an inevitable period of decline and decay. Instead, it's framed as simply a change to be welcomed joyfully, another step forward on a path of life that ideally has no end in terms of growth and learning.
So you don't have to decline mentally or physically just because the calendar pages turn?
Not according to this view. You can potentially be more active, alert, alive, and quickened by the inspiration from your subconscious mind at 65 or even 90 than you were at 30, because your mind doesn't automatically deteriorate with age if you continually feed it new ideas, maintain a sense of purpose, and continue to learn and grow. Your assumptions about aging are key.
Wow. That flies in the face of common belief.
It really does, and examples are given to support this. Alfred Tennyson, writing magnificent poetry at 83. John Wesley, vigorously directing Methodism at 88, working long hours. Dr. Murphy shares stories about his own father, who apparently learned French fluently starting at 65, became an authority in the field by 70, and remained sharp, clear-minded, and active right up until his passing at 99, with his handwriting and reasoning powers reportedly improving with age.
Improving with age?
Yeah. These aren't presented as rare anomalies, but as demonstrations of how our deeply held assumptions about aging literally shape our experience of it. This perspective encourages embracing every phase of life as a fresh opportunity for continued growth, learning, contribution, and expression of inner vitality.
So it's about consciously choosing to impress your subconscious with ideas of youthfulness, in spirit and energy, if not just appearance, mental agility, wisdom, and a joyful, productive life, regardless of your chronological years.
Exactly. Your internal blueprint, your dominant assumption about aging, dictates your physical and mental experience of it. Choose your assumption wisely. #outro.
So we've really journeyed through this powerful and sometimes challenging framework of the law of assumption, haven't we? Exploring the profound power of your own imagination and how it's presented as actively creating your reality. We've looked at those critical distinctions from the law of attraction, really emphasizing your internal creative power over appealing to some external universe.
Right, the shift from asking to assuming.
Exactly. We've delved into the inner workings, consciousness being the only reality, the non-argumentative, habit-forming nature of the subconscious mind, and understanding that feeling is the secret really points to that deep, often neutral inner knowing, not necessarily constant euphoria.
Yeah, that was a key takeaway for me.
And we've uncovered those practical techniques like SAT, the true nature of affirmations as chosen thoughts, the discipline of the mental diet, all designed to help you deliberately shift your internal state, from healing the body and mind to transforming relationships, even revising the past.
Yeah, across the board, the principles consistently point back to a single radical truth. Your inner assumptions are paramount. They are the cause, The outer world is the effect.
And what an incredible and, yeah, sometimes daunting thought it is to truly try and embrace that idea that you are the god of your reality, the operant power.
It takes a while to really sink in, doesn't it?
It really does. But it's also fundamentally empowering, isn't it? It means you're not just a victim of circumstances. You are the architect of them. You hold the blueprint. You choose the film reel.
The power is within you.
The choice is yours then, to cultivate the inner state, to embody the assumptions that reflect the reality you truly desire. It really feels like an invitation to a much more intentional, fully self-directed life.
It absolutely is. And perhaps a final thought to leave our listeners with. If your outer world is truly just a reflection of your inner assumptions, then what is the most profound, most empowering, most deeply held assumption you can choose to make about yourself, about your potential, right now, starting today?
That's a powerful question to ponder. What new story will you begin to live from?
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this really deep dive into the law of assumption. We hope you, our listeners, feel well-informed, maybe a little inspired, perhaps even a little challenged by these ideas, and encouraged to explore them further in your own life.